Hello, my name is Antimo Cimino. I'm the founder of Vumago, a small travel company specialized in trips to Italy that are customized for small groups. When you travel with me throughout Italy, you're interacting with people that are within 2 or 3 degrees of separation from me to make sure that you're mingling with locals and really experiencing authentic culture, authentic food. I take you to the places you want to visit the most, but I also take you away from touristy crowds to truly experience what it is like to live a day in the life of an Italian. So today I'm here because I want to talk to you about a wonderful book published just this month and available on Amazon, The Italians Creating Our Italy by Richard Lonsdale. Richard is here with us today, and I'm going to ask him a few questions about the book. Hi, Richard.
Hi, Antimo. Thank you very much. This is a great pleasure.
Absolutely. I'm very excited because how we met is actually very much in line with how I work in my company and how my passion and desire to have people know Italy is all about. So Richard interviewed actually my cousin, which is one of the stories in the book. And as they were talking, my name came about. And Richard decided to reach out. And it's almost been a year. We've been exchanging emails and chats back and forth. We'll be actually meeting in person in a few months in Italy. And just to realize that we have so much in common, including the whole piece about neuroscience. And so it was very, very nice talking to you, Richard, and getting to know you. Again, I'm very excited. I have a few questions so that we can let the listeners know what this book is all about. And just by the title, The Italians Creating Our Italy, because this is a book surely about travel, where to go, where to eat, but it's a lot more than that. It's about stories of real Italians, very unique stories. And as Richard narrates those stories, is referencing the culture, the language, the bureaucracy. So it's a wonderful, wonderful book. So Richard, first off, please share a few sentences, few words about yourself as a writer.
Ah, as a right. Oh, right. I mean, I'm sort of, officially I'm retired. I don't work anymore. But I've had a long and varied career. Originally I'm a scientist, a physicist. I worked a lot in IT. When I retired, I sort of missed the science, so I went back to doing neuroscience research, which you talked about for 5 years. But throughout the last few decades of my life, my wife and I have been completely in love with Italy. And we had our honeymoon there,
Oh,
and we go back every year. And yeah, just cannot get enough of Italy.
oh.
And that's sort of, that's why this book has been written. Really, it's a love letter to Italy.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So perhaps one of the first questions I have, what really made you want to write this book, and where did the idea come from?
Ah, okay. So yeah, so I've mentioned I love Italy, and after I retired, I did sort of neuroscience research for 5 years with a team at Oxford University. But then during the pandemic, they relocated to Vienna, and it became harder to work with them. And I was ready to move on anyway.
Mm.
So I wanted to do a new project when the pandemic ended. And of course, with all the lockdowns, we only got to go to Italy once or twice during the years of the pandemic. So I wanted to spend a lot more time in Italy when we were able to travel again. And so I knew I wanted a project, and I'd like to write. I'd already written one book on the sort of the mind, which is completely different. So I thought writing a book is a good project. And I want a project that requires me to spend a lot of time in Italy and ideally traveling around Italy, not just one place. But I didn't really have an idea until it occurred to me that in our time in Italy, we'd come across a couple of restaurants, one in Venice, one in Rome, where I knew a little bit about the history of the restaurant, but that's all. And they were both bit mysterious. So there was a restaurant in Venice called Acquapazza, which is
Acquapazzo.
run by a family from the Amalfi Coast at the other end of Italy. So, how did a family from the Amalfi Coast end up running a restaurant in Venice? There's a mystery. And then our favorite restaurant in Rome, Babette, I read somewhere in a magazine that it was run by two ladies. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Are they sisters? Are they friends? I wanted to get to know that story. And then it occurred to me, well, I could just, next time I'm in these restaurants, I could just ask. But then I thought, well, there's probably a nice, interesting story here. If I get the whole story behind the people who run these restaurants, that story could be the chapter in a book. And
Yeah.
if I then do that across Italy with 20 or 30 establishments, I've got 20 or 30 chapters. And it's a picture, when you put them all together, it's a picture of the whole of Italy
Yeah,
through these people. And these
absolutely.
people are so important because, when we visit Italy, these are the people that shape our experience, the people who run the restaurants, the craft shops. It's them that create the Italy that we see.
Yeah, well said. And I'll two things about what you said. First of all, uh, a secret ingredient to the whole idea of traveling and exploring the world is not so much going to see the Colosseum, going to see the Grand Canal, but really is about the immersion, the contact with the culture, the people, that
Yeah,
is really fueled or should be fueled by a sense of curiosity. So what I heard in your words is that sense of curiosity of saying, oh, I wonder how can this restaurant be run by two women? How can this
yeah,
restaurant owned by somebody from Naples be actually in Venice? And so that level of curiosity gets you to explore and learn so many more facets of a culture, right? So
yeah,
that's fantastic. And yes, and the other thing is when we travel, unless we again we ask questions, we engage in the curiosity, we don't have the full effect of what the possibilities are. The minute you start talking to somebody in Italy, regardless of whether it's in the south, in the center, in the north, it just opens up layers or doors. And then sometimes people host you at their home for a meal, or they invite you for coffee in their living
yeah.
room.
Well, the
And
fact that you and I are talking now is because
absolutely,
I spoke to your cousin Maria Giovanna. She introduced me to you. We're going to meet in Puglia, hopefully in December. It's all this chain of events that neither of us could possibly have foreseen.
that's it. That's
Just
yeah.
happen because we're curious and we talk to
Yeah.
people. Yeah,
Yeah, and sometimes travelers stay too much on that tourist circuit, missing on all of those beautiful details, and they may never come back again. But those that do, they long for coming back because now people, at
yeah,
least my clients say, I love traveling with you because we meet people and we feel like we have an extended family or an extended group of friends internationally. And often they come back to Italy to another region, but they want to make the time 2, 3 days to go back see Rita and Giuseppe again because they have a relationship. They write
yes,
each other's cards during the holidays. So
yeah,
this is the
yeah,
beauty of traveling. So
yeah,
tell me more about the interviews. You were saying something about Maria Giovanna. Tell us if they were face to face, how long they were, and
yeah.
maybe
Sure.
premise, if you will, the fact that it's important for readers to know that this book wasn't meant for a secondary purpose behind. It's not like you were asking for something in return by interviewing them or mentioning the restaurant.
Yeah,
So if you don't mind,
yeah,
address that as well.
yeah, yeah. So as I think in the introduction to the book, I sort of confessed that I didn't go around interviewing these people so that I could write the book.
Mhm.
I decided to write the book because it gave me the chance to meet all these people. It's that's it was the experience
Yeah.
and the friendships that came out of that voyage, and that's what was driving me to write the book. And of course, once you've interviewed the people, there's an obligation then to write and publish the book. So this is not a commercial venture. It's very much for my own satisfaction, for my own memories, and also for these people because they're amazing people, and I want the world to know their stories. So so the interviews, yeah. So it's quite interesting because when I started, I had no idea how easy it would be to get people to tell me their stories. Most of the time, I would sort of eat in a restaurant,
Mhm.
I'd pay the bill, and
Mhm.
then I would ask to speak to the owner because I don't want them to think I'm offering to publish their story in a book so I'll get a free meal.
Right.
So by paying the bill first, then talk to them. And I would say there's not a single occurrence where I told them about the book and said, "Would you like to be in it?" And they said, "No, I'm not interested." Every single person I asked was really happy to give me the time to talk
Wow.
to me, to give me their story, and to have me publish their story in a book. Um, Sometimes they were too busy. We just couldn't find the time when, I was only in a place for 3 or 4 days and we couldn't always find time available to get the interview. But normally I could. So it's always got to be a face-to-face interview.
Mhm.
That's partly because my Italian's not very good, and all but two or three of the interviews had to be done in Italian. So it's much easier to communicate face to face when I'm only half good, half able to converse in Italian. Um, and an interview could take anything from 50 minutes to 2.5 hours. Um, I I have a sort of standard set of questions to get their life story. I always record it on the phone. Today's technology has made this possible in a way that it might not have been 10 years ago because I can record the interview on the phone. With AI, I can even translate that interview into English. It's
Mhm.
amazing. Um, and then afterwards, I would write up their life story. Um, so that's how it happened. Um,
Awesome.
and many of the places I tended to find just serendipitously.
Mhm.
Some were places I'd always known I wanted included in the book. Some were places recommended to me by Italian friends. And some places I researched thoroughly online beforehand and then contacted them by email to set up the interview. So there's all sort of different
Yeah,
ways.
awesome. I was wondering about the language barrier, and I'm glad you said that some of the interviews were conducted in Italian. So we're talking about The Italians Creating Our Italy by Richard Lonsdale. This is the book already available on Amazon. Very exciting. Some of my clients and friends in the US already have bought it. But the exciting news is also that it's available soon, it's going to be available soon in Italian. It's being translated right now, probably available in December. Richard and I will meet in November when I am also in Italy and probably do an event talking about the book. After I met Richard and we started chatting, and he asked me if I could just review the book and see what I thought, I was also amazed that you were talking about somebody that I knew. And I had no idea that we knew Serena from La Cucina di Mamma Elvira in Lecce, and that's one of the venue I also use. I immediately called her and said, "Oh my God!" And so this is and for me too. Once I saw the energy, the content, how beautiful the book was written, I honestly offered Richard my help to raise awareness of the book in the US. I also am not getting compensated. I just feel that these wonderful things happen for a reason, and that when you do good, good comes back to you. So, Richard, I have a couple more questions. One is about now that the book has been written, um, when you look back, has it met your expectation?
Ah, that's a great question. So when I started, I guess I sort of had this idea that I knew the typical Italian restaurant owner. I know what these people are like. I'll
Mhm.
gather their stories, be interesting to talk to them. But at the end of the day, they're all more or less the same kind of person. And
Mhm.
they're so not. They're all so different from each other. And so the book has far exceeded my expectations in terms of how it is now. The sum is the whole is greater than the sum of the parts because of the variety of the different people and how interesting they all were. I now look at the book and think it's much, much better than I could have expected it to be in terms of a picture of Italy, in terms of the variety, in terms of the interest. So yeah, I'm really delighted with it. I'm so pleased because all these people are so amazing. Um, you have to be you have to have passion to do this kind of work.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So it was a real pleasure to meet them.
it's definitely a fuel, right, for doing good work, passionate work. Um,
Yeah,
I'm very excited too because when you and I started talking, and I was amazed that you had made it to the South. I see that the book for now has a few more stories in the North and in the South,
that's
but
right.
the
Yeah.
our exchange is probably opened up a million possibilities afterwards. So I'm wondering if between us getting to know each other in person, me sharing more of my friends and families and connections, could there be a sequel? Could there be a number?
Yeah, well, I mean, I definitely will be looking for another project in a year or two, to do with Italy because I love Italy. I think a book that's too similar to this would be difficult to sort of motivate myself to do that again. But I definitely want to find out more about the south of Italy. I'm already planning to spend, as you know, 5 weeks in Lecce and
Yeah.
probably another 5 weeks in Palermo in January, February, because I'm aware that I know the north much better than the south, and there's not really a good reason for that. So I want to spend more time in the south, and who knows, the next project might well be something to do with southern Italy,
Yeah.
especially if I spend time with you. You're bound to you come up with
I don't
ideas.
know, right? Wonderful. One final question for the viewers and the readers. What is one of your favorite chapters?
Ah. So I have two, yeah, I have two favorite chapters, I suppose. The first chapter, because it's just this amazing story of a lady from Russia and a young lad from Ferrara who meet accidentally and create this wonderful little restaurant in Ferrara. And you've read the story, but it's just
That's
an
exactly my
astonishing set of
favorite story as
coincidences.
well.
Yeah, it's so heartwarming.
Yeah.
And I thought hands down that will be my favorite chapter. But then I got near the end of the book, um, and there's a restaurant a very high end restaurant in Padua, which is run by what looks like a young girl, but it's just a young lady, effervescent young lady. And I saw this video on YouTube. I thought, how can somebody so young be running this high end restaurant? I had to find out. So I phoned her, and she was happy to do an interview. And it was the longest interview I did, the most emotional. Her and her parents have such a story of overcoming adversity. They started, from a very poor background. They worked so hard. So many things happened to them to push them back, but they fought through it all. And it's a very emotional story. And I'm afraid that ended up being my favorite just because she and her parents are such remarkable people. But you have to read the chapter to understand why.
Yeah, I came away feeling rather emotional after reading many of the stories, including my cousin, because there is a common theme that is that one of overcoming adversity. This is
Yeah.
again what people have no idea. And so finally now when you read a story and then you one day you decide to go to that city, to that restaurant, there is another immediate connection you'll be making. So that's what I see. In fact, we exchange this idea as well. I'd love one day to travel with you as a leader of the group alongside with me
Hmm.
and go visit two or three of these places and
Oh, that'd be lovely.
imagine what
Yeah.
that can become. What a fun trip that
Yes.
would be, taking that personal level level up, right? That exchange, that emotional exchange and memories that last for a long time. So thank you for your time. I don't want to make this a very long interview. There might be another one coming, but everybody, The Italians Making Our Italy by Richard Lonsdale is available now on Amazon. Look it up. It's not very expensive. I promise you, this is a book that it's very hard to put down. I loved every single minute of it, and I'm born and raised in Italy. So, Richard, thank you for your time, and good luck with selling this book and sharing your passion.
Thank you so much, Antio, and I can't wait to see you in a few weeks. Take care.
Absolutely. Ciao.
Bye
Grazie.
bye.